What's going on, Internet? Welcome to a series we like to call Hot Topic, a show where we take a break from our normal podcasting routine and deliver you quick, entertaining discussions about any and everything. If you're new to the show, this is The Summit, the podcast where we share with you all of the latest and greatest gaming, anime, and pop culture news, saving you all the time of finding it yourself. If you're listening to this, you can find us on all major podcasting platforms. We're available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Don't forget, if you want to reach out and keep up with us, you can always find us in our Discord server, which is always linked in the show notes below. Now that all that is wrapped up, we hope you enjoyed the discussion.
So, today we are going to talk about what makes a game worth its full price. A lot of angles here. I am curious to see what y'all think. I'm honestly curious as to what I think because I feel like there's a lot of fucking lot of what's the word I'm looking for?
Fuckery, bullshit.
Dang, I wasn't going that hardcore that fast. I was just thinking like there's so many like different types of games and different like types of enjoyment and different types of loops. You know, like it's kind of hard to put a one size fits all type of answer to this question. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the best way to kind of like jump in to like discuss this is always reflecting on the year before and seeing like the games that released the prior year and what won game of the year and why it won game of the year, and also the popular games of last year versus what we're getting this year.
I know, but like something being popular doesn't necessarily not that something being unpopular doesn't necessarily mean it's not worth its price. You know what I mean? Like,
but I mean, why was it popular then?
okay, well, I mean, you should answer that, bro. You love indies that we shit on all the time. Like, you know, so it's like you should be a forerunner of that idea that like something not being popular doesn't mean it's not worth the price tag. It's just not, you know, it's not.
All right, so what's full price?
Well,
what full
I guess
price we talking about?
Okay, well today's standard of fucking $70. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, that's a fuckery there.
Yeah, we're gonna miss it when it goes up to 80. I take that joke back.
Yeah.
Please don't.
So going back to that $70 like full price for a game versus like unpopular games. Like when we talk about these unpopular games, we're usually talking about games that kind of going under the radar just because they don't really have the funds for or budget for marketing. And when you get those type of games, they're not priced at that $70 tag. You get them for much less.
Yeah. So for those, I can appreciate a game that does not release at the industry standard of 70 because it knows it is not a $70 AAA game. But at the same time, just because you price it lower does not mean it is still worth the price you put it at, right? Like let's say this, and this is just a personal thing, right? Because it's still a decent game. But I regret buying Helldivers for 40 because I just didn't play it all that much. I got some good enjoyment out of it. I didn't really feel the need to get all the way to Helldiver difficulty because the shit was just crazy, and I felt like I got most of the content at where did we stop, 6 or 7, whichever difficulty that was, and
Pretty hard.
yeah, so it's like oh well, was that worth? Like yeah, I appreciated not being 70, and honestly, if it was 70, I never would have bought it in the first place, honestly, but. That still doesn't mean that it's necessarily worth the 40 price tag. But you know, that's just me personally. I know there's people who fucking die hard for that game.
How much time do you put into it?
I don't know. Hold on. I mean, fuck.
Because like if you're getting your money's, so I feel like with a game, like there's a lot kind of going into it. Like you got your aesthetics, there's the gameplay. If the game has a story, like it's basically all of its content and what they have to offer, and how they can actually like occupy your time and fill it with enjoyment and an experience that's worthwhile. Like at that point, I just classify that game as worth its price tag. So at $40, like I spent like about 50 hours on that game. For $40, spending 50 hours, that's more than what I probably I get out of a game paying full price.
Yeah, that was definitely worth it for your ass. You know, you got your money's worth for sure.
I'm surprised you didn't say something like Concord.
Oh yeah, oh shit! I forgot that shit existed, man. And didn't the state of play have
Concord from existence
on it? Crazy insanity. But yeah, I mean, Concord definitely wasn't worth the price, and that one's not even controversial, man. That's damn near a fact, boy. But so like I was trying to think of like, you know, games where you know your opinion might be a little different. Like you know, for instance, Striker, he fucking loved the shit out of 50 hours. I don't remember you. Damn, you must have been grinding those 50 hours for real, because like I
I
don't
got to
remember
like
being on it for too long, like
level
time length
30 or
wise.
something like that. Yeah. It was a fun little game. Like I'll have fun with the abilities and like the equipments, and honestly, like it's a multiplayer game, so it's almost hard to not enjoy a multiplayer game with friends.
That is true. That is true. Okay, so like, well, that's another thing to bring up. I think we like it's kind of different. It's kind of difficult to like put a single player game and a multiplayer game side by side and like talk about the prices because it's two totally different gameplay loops. Like, I feel like it's easier to answer whether a single player game is worth the money because typically it has a linear beginning and an end, and you can't be one of those that does above and beyond, goes back, new game plus, or goes back and does all the collectibles and the game. For the most part, it has a definite start and a definite end, and so it's kind of easier to tell, if you think it's worth that price. Whereas a multiplayer game, like Helldivers, you said, it's an endless gameplay loop. So if you enjoy it enough, you got to keep going back and back, and eventually, if you do reach, in my idea, because I've done this forever, if I ever reached the number of dollars I spent in hours on a game, then it was worth it. 100%. I can't argue against that. I played that bitch for $1 an hour, and now I got it for free practically, in a sense. Nah, that sounds kind of stupid. Forget I said that.
I don't feel like the single and multiplayer things are kind of different. Like we can kind of close this kind of home to where all of us have played it, but Diablo 4, kind of a prime example on a game that we expected a lot, but due to developer or lack of developer actually listens to the community and driving the game away from, I don't know if I'd say a vision they had, but potential. It took the game from being something that was somewhat worthwhile to like hardly even touching it now. And
But
it's
can
like,
you really
Really?
say that when you're advocating for the purchase of the expansion, bro? You don't think you got your money's worth out of that game?
would you buy the expansion based off of your current experience with Diablo 4?
I
I feel
already
like that's.
own the expansion, so that's not a valid question for me.
I feel like that's kind of irrelevant because I think Diablo 4 was worth the price despite us not pick, because like we didn't enjoy the loop enough to play for well, that's not even true. We played for multiple seasons. We played for like the first 2 or 3 seasons, right? And if
So
you include
103 seasons in a
yeah, exactly. We played the preseason and the first 2 for like all, like I didn't get 3 level 100 characters, but I got 1 level 100, like 1 level 90. I have that level 60 hardcore, that level 40 hardcore that died. Like, I feel like I got my money's worth out of Diablo. I just like wasn't fucking with the gameplay loop enough to repeat that entire process for,
every season. Yeah.
every yeah. So like
my
I
game.
think Diablo 4 is and like hold up, I'm just turning on my PlayStation so now I can actually check my hours for shit. Because like, and I also feel like we got a nasty number of hours on Diablo 4 to be real. Yeah, I have 341 hours on Diablo. There's no way I didn't get my money's worth. Bro,
I mean,
you were there, nigga. What are you saying goddamn for? That's boy acting like you wasn't there, bro.
whole race to nothing
Hold on,
type
bro.
shit.
Hell
Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like that was
Bro,
the
I'm
main
still
reason
mad
that
at
like
that.
got us in there though. That race.
Yeah,
Sure.
but I mean, but we also played for 2 other seasons after that. And what's crazy about the race is like our first level 100 characters were still within the preseason. We just swapped from hardcore to core so we could get to 100 safely. And that's even crazy when you think about it. That means we started over willingly, like out of the blue, just like, oh fuck it. Like, Diablo 4 is definitely worth its money, right? But
Yeah, you just don't gotta buy every season pass or microtransaction. Like that as a consumer, you should understand. Like, just because you buy the base game does not mean you have to buy everything else, like cosmetics and all that shit. None of it's gonna affect your actual gameplay. They aren't necessities, so you shouldn't be like review bombing or tanking a game because they have those options there. Because theoretically, the people that do enjoy the experience a little bit more than you, or more than you in general, or they have that disposable income to throw at those things, are going to do it, which are in fact going to help that studio get funded and continue to produce that $60 game you wanted to purchase.
and like thinking about it, I think we got to come up with some concrete, like, universal things of what makes a game worth it or not. Because, like, I mean, this subject is very objective, or no, subjective. I've mixed them two up all the time. Are very much subjective, but like, there's got to be some concrete like things we can talk about that makes a game worth it or not, right? And that's why I wanted to differentiate multiplayer from single player, because I think single player, time, like quality and quantity, matters so much more than a multiplayer game does, because multiplayer games rely on like smaller loops, so they don't have to have as much quality or quantity, because like you're not. It's just a very different experience, right? Like, and I'm not even saying this to piss you off, Striker, but dead ass, I don't think Spider-Man 2 was worth it. Like that shit was 20. I platinumed that game in 20 hours. It wasn't, so the quantity wasn't there, and the quality wasn't there too much either in comparison to like what I would like from them, considering it was the third game in the series, right? So I don't think that was worth the 70 price tag. What else? What other games this year do I think were just not really worth it if I played this year?
Ass.
I'm trying to see.
All right, well, starting from the top, like from what they released, starting like in January, you had Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, Power World, Another Code Collection, Immortality Enshrouded, Apollo Justice, Tekken 8, Like a Dragon, and Silent Hill: The Sword Message. That was January. Of those, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it was like 10 games. The only ones that really stood out to anyone really was Power World and Tekken 8.
Damn, you speak for everybody? That's pretty crazy.
Hey man, the numbers don't lie. Like, people really bought The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered?
I know. I mean, they shouldn't have, bro. I mean, I bet you people did. I bet you people did, but you know how that's a whole different conversation, because that's a remaster. But like, if we're talking about The Last of Us Part 2, very much worth the money. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And I'm someone who hated what they did with the story too. But I still admit, as a game, I very much worth that money.
It's still a game they released at full price.
I'm not talking about the remaster. I'm talking about the base game when it came out.
I'm talking about the remastered.
Yeah,
that
but
they're trying to chalk up to Game of the Year.
Yeah, but I don't think that is relevant to the conversation, because it's not worth it, because it is a remaster of a game that came out during this fucking generation. That's ridiculous, Like,
that's fair. Okay. That's fair.
Let's see, what else have I played?
Oh, who played Tekken 8?
Nah, not that much of a Tekken guy. Was Stellar Blade a full 60 game? I don't remember.
I believe it was, yeah.
It was?
It was.
Let's see. It was. Do I think Stellar Blade was worth full price? You see, because this is also a question that I personally don't want to be too strict on, just because I don't think a game is like a 10 out of 10, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's not worth the price, right? Because like overall, we're just very unhappy with how priced video games are, for real. Like inflation. I think more so, in my opinion, what makes a game not worth it is if it does not live up to the standards. That's a big thing. Like for Stellar Blade, I don't instantly say no, because I didn't have high standards for the game, so I wasn't expecting a 10 out of 10 experience. That softened the blow. You know what I mean? Whereas something like Spider-Man, going back to that, it's fucking Spider-Man. I expect a fucking 10 out of 10 performance from everything, right? It's one of the biggest superheroes in period, right? But the game didn't live up to that. So I think expectation plays a big part, because some games get downright dogged, and they're not even a bad game. They just couldn't live up to the hype, because hype be killing games like a motherfucker. That might have been what happened to Helldivers. Now that I think about it, like Helldivers was overhyped like a motherfucker. I never heard of the first one. I probably never would have bought the second one if it wasn't for the hype train, and maybe that's why I feel the way I do about it. What?
Now, going back to the Spider-Man thing, like, I feel like the studio also plays a part to it. Like, if you're a AAA studios, like, the big ones that we know, Activision, Naughty Dog, Rockstar, 2K, like all these studios that have been around for a while and have plenty of money, plenty of resources to fund and make something that's actually worthwhile, why don't they? Like, and then you got like these, I wouldn't call them indies, but like kind of sub studios that create games, but need the help of bigger studios to publish so that they can put their games out there that would do the same. Even kind of going to Insomniac game that made the Spider-Man series. The first one, like, phenomenal. The second one, in my opinion, was definitely a 10 out of 10. And being that they're not a studio that's making like millions of dollars or billions of dollars even, with the resources they had, they put out a definitely worthwhile game worth playing and continuing a series or even reviving that series that the previous studios did with the previous trilogies.
What game you talking about? Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Oh my god, bro! I ain't gonna lie. Like that, the end you were trailing off at the end there, bro. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, bro, there's no way this man. I mean, okay, what makes Spider-Man 2 to you worth the full price or full retail price?
The bridge between the two of Miles Morales and Peter Parker, the story how it continued after like Peter Parker did whatever he did and saved the captain and whatnot. That spin-off that we got with Miles Morales, full blown amazing game, 10 out of 10 as well. Definitely worth.
Okay, hold on.
And then bridging those two into Spider-Man 2 and seeing both of the stories and how well they bridged those stories into a singular story, and the gameplay and variety of characters that you could play despite on what you're allowed to do. They worked with what within the realms of the game and what those characters could do and what the potentials were. Like, I did not expect what's her face, Mary Jane, to get absorbed by one of the Venom symbiotes and become who she became, and you fight her. Like, there was a lot of things within the game itself that also kind of like threw me off, caught me off guard, and I appreciated it.
They showed that shit in the trailer, and you didn't know it was gonna happen.
She didn't get sucked in by that thing in the trailer. They just showed that thing, but it wasn't her.
I don't know, bro.
You gonna tell me they confirmed it?
I feel like you blowing things way out of fucking proportion here. And like, we gotta take this shit one by one, because like I played the same. Like, actually, by your definition, bro, we did not play the same fucking game. No fucking way. First of all, don't you ever praise Spider-Man Miles Morales, because that should have been a fucking DLC, and they charged that as a separate fucking game. I'm not gonna forgive them for that. That was fucking crazy. All right. Second of all, I don't think. Honestly, like you said you like how they did how you could play multiple characters. You can only play Peter and Miles, all right, and Venom in that 10-minute section, which is like
You got to play Mary Jane. What you mean,
bro? No one wants to play Mary Jane. No one
Why
wants
not?
to play Mary Jane.
Zap.
No one wants to play Mary Jane, bro. They
Walk
had to
around and just zap.
They had to. That's the point. That's another thing too. They had to make her fucking OP for people to make it bearable in the sequel, bro. Because everyone hated MJ missions in the first game, and no one really. I don't think people really like playing her. No one buys a Spider-Man game to play fucking Mary Jane. All right, that's just.
I appreciated her in that game.
Well, you are one of the fucking few. Congratulations. But so you can only play Miles and Peter for real. Like let's be real. I think you're blowing that out of course talking about playing multiple characters. And then with the assist characters that come out and help you, that shit is so short lived if you actually play the story, because they're only able to assist you at certain intervals in the story. So you complete a mission, it's like, oh, cool, Agent Venom is now in the streets ready to help me. You complete the next mission, Agent Venom does not exist anymore. He will not be there to help you with crime. Same thing with Yuri. Oh, you do Yuri's mission? Oh, now she's out in the streets and she'll help you in fights sometimes. You complete her side quest, Yuri's fucking gone. Ghost. And so, like, I don't think, like, so I don't think that whole character thing. And then the story is another thing, too. Like, they didn't bridge the stories together well. They really didn't. Like, because, like, I remember one of my most hated things was how Miles' side quests were so fucking ass. A majority of his side quest was him helping out his fucking classmates, bro. Which is so ridiculous, because you're Spider-Man.
He's a high schooler.
Why, bro? There's no way you're telling me if you were a superhero, you would spend time out of your day helping someone finish their school project, helping someone else the homecoming. You're helping with a homecoming proposal as a superhero, bro. You don't have better things to do.
I mean,
For
that
real.
mission was kind of annoying. I ain't gonna lie, but I mean that's a
Hasbro
whole
were
different
annoying,
aspect
bro. And
though. But
honestly, I feel like
no,
the only
chasing
extra
around
target
that
was
little drone and just taking
yeah, but
snippets and
you're
whatnot,
biased
web
because you
gliding.
love you love the traversal a little too fucking much, to be honest. So like,
I mean,
you're biased
it's
about
not a
that one.
masterpiece.
But like, so like Miles' side quests were really boring and didn't really expand on him as a character at all, for real. Like even the better ones, like the Mysterio joint, didn't do anything for Miles. Like off of memory, I don't think like he didn't grow off of them or learn anything or anything, right? And then Peter, I didn't like how they sidelined Peter for Miles. I get what they're trying to do. They want Miles to be the forefront in future games or something like, step up, become his own thing. But the way they did it, it just didn't sit right with me. Like they basically was like, "Hey, Peter, I know you're Spider Man, but sit this one down." Like why the fuck is it that Miles was the one to defeat Venom? Why? Venom, Spider Man's arch enemy. It's Venom. Who's the host of Venom that time was Harry, Spider Man's best fucking friend. You're telling me everything cinematically just lined up for a showdown between Peter and Harry, but no, Peter loses and Miles wins. That didn't sit right with me. The way they talk about how Peter wants to retire after that. Like what? Peter would never fucking retire. He's always gonna be Spider Man. That's his thing. He's fucking selfless. He doesn't care how much it sucks for him. He's always gonna be Spider Man, right? Like they forced a lot of things down your throat with the story, and when they weren't doing that, they weren't furthering the story damn near at all, for real. It was just bullshit happening. Like nothing stuck out to me with that. And so I don't agree that the story was A1 or anything like that. That's part of the quantity there for me. Like Spider-Man 2 didn't do anything new. It really didn't. Like the only thing off the top of my head, and now I'm thinking about it, it's been a while since the game released, right? But the only thing off the top of my head I can think of that I really liked was Peter, but not Peter, was Miles' thing with what's Mr. Negative, what's his name, Lee. Like that was like the only like really good thing about the story that I remember happening. Him wanting to kill him for vengeance, but and trying to at first, failing, resisting the urge, and turning him around. Like that was the one thing in the story that I was like, oh, that was great writing. Other than that, nothing really shocked me. Nothing really stood out to me except for the bad things. Like, man, he spent a side quest painting as a deaf girl. He spent, man, there was just so much crazy shit in that game that I just feel like they didn't. I don't know. I feel like they just threw shit at us, for I don't even know what purpose. And that's part of why I don't think. And then another thing was the quantity, right? I said quantity before, I meant quality before, but the quantity now, 20 hours for a story, and that's 20 hours platinuming it, right? And I'm not a fucking speedrunner. I didn't skip cutscenes. I didn't not explore and do side things on the way to the story. I didn't power level or anything like that. Just naturally playing the game, I platinumed it within 20 hours. And it's like, bro, that's that's not a lot of content at all, bro. Like for a Spider-Man game, I feel like that's a severe lack of content. And I was playing on spectacular too, right? Like this shit, she wasn't even. I think I died like twice throughout the entirety of the game on spectacular. I remember because I think I died. I know I died to Lizard once. Probably one of the better boss fights, that I remember. Um, but that's about it. That's the only death I can remember. I think I died on him like once or twice. Besides that, maybe I failed the Mysterio challenge once or twice as Miles. Well, no, those don't count as deaths. You just failed them, right? Or don't get the gold. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think the quality and quantity were there for what it. And once again, going back to what I said earlier, I expect a lot from a Spider-Man game because he's fucking Spider-Man. They've been making Spider-Man games for over 2 fucking decades now. How do you not give us an A1 Spider-Man game? I don't know, but I feel like they're just kind of lazy. They're just pushing it. Oh, it's Spider-Man. They'll eat it up, and they do. You do.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah, the real one's gonna definitely see, the work, the value in it. I feel like the people being close-minded and kind of being like, "Oh, that wasn't canon. That wasn't part of the comic." Blah blah blah. Like that's basically kind of sticking Spider-Man as to there's only one single story or universe, and there can't be any other. And like if you look at the Spider-Verse and whatnot, like that's not the case in one. And I feel like what they were trying to kind of do with this is kind of push the Miles Morales narrative, and I feel like at some point we're gonna see a point where Peter Parker will come back and he will die, and Miles Morales is the one, and we see and know how. And I feel like if that does happen, like by far, this will probably be the best trilogy that they'll ever make as far as any Spider-Man game goes. But once again, this is kind of being able or being receptive to a different type of writing
They
or a
already
different
have a
narrative.
trilogy though, bro. Because Spider-Man's Miles Morales, like
The
that
the you talking
mini
about the animated series?
game. No, I'm
No,
talking about
no, they separate game they release.
yeah,
The
the
DLC ass game.
that you said was worth
No,
the
but
price.
like that's
That's
not
nah, that's an
the
installment
full
in that
like it's not the
series.
end.
You said it
That's
was
not the
worth
end
the
is what
price.
I'm saying. I
I'm
feel like
saying you said it would be the best trilogy if Peter died in the next game. That's
And
not
that's
a trilogy.
bullshit. That is bullshit too. I don't believe
That'll
that
be
at
the
all.
fourth
I
game.
believe Peter dying in the Spider-Man game would be the equivalent of Joel dying in Last of Us Part 2. Unless it happens at the end in a good way, no one is going to fuck with it. Like no one's gonna fuck with that at all. Because like that's the thing, right? You have to like for a game like that to work, it has to be titled Spider-Man Miles Morales, right? You have to know that Peter is not the focus. Because if they release a Spider-Man 3 game and Spider-Man fucking dies and you just swap characters, you really think people are gonna be like, oh man, that's awesome, that's bold. I love like no, like if I
absolutely
no,
they're gonna get emotional about it. Like it's gonna be something big. It's gonna take time. It's something you process. It's
I
not gonna
mean
be like
I,
something like
I realize that you didn't play Last of Us Part 2, so you didn't firsthand experience this, but I promise you, if that happens and Peter dies in the beginning of the game, people are not going to fuck with that because people buy Spider-Man to play Spider-Man, to play Peter Parker. That's like the whole thing, you know. And yeah, some people, I'm not saying people dislike Miles, but it's just like he's not the the forefront of the series, at least not yet. And they can push him to be in a good way, but I just don't think they did that very well in the sequel. But I'm gonna just let you, like, if you have any rebuttal to that, uh let you get your spill out. But I want to move on from Spider-Man 2 before this whole hot topic is just fucking Spider-Man.
no, it's there. We stated our opinions on that one.
Wild ass opinions. But other than that, other games that people think aren't, like, what are some games that you think were worth the full price this year and why?
Oh, Wukong for sure, easily.
Why?
The game was from the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth. Damn, I forgot the rest of the line. But like that very first cutscene and kind of like how it gets into it to get into the game, probably one of the most captivating like cutscenes or intros that I've seen in the game in the longest. So that alone kind of like got me ready, had me pumped to kind of play the rest of the game, and the rest of the game did not fall short of what you got from that intro. And you know, despite I feel like you could run through that game if you did like a fresh, brand new, like no like power ups or anything. From beginning to end, you could probably get it done. Probably not even doing the side bosses in about like 16 hours, I'd say. Pretty easy, maybe even less. But like even then, like that new game plus will entice you to want to look and seek out more and seek out the things you didn't do. And I feel like that replayability is something that's been lost and kind of like an action adventure game. You,
It still ain't happened in Spider-Man. Oh, my bad. I thought I was muted. Continue.
fucking, I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about how the new game plus entices replayability and all that, and how it's lost in a lot of modern action adventure games.
Oh,
Like
right, right, right,
Spider-Man
right,
2.
right. Reminiscent to Spider-Man and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just the graphics as well was something that was also like they did really well. It was amazing. I feel like another thing that Steam Deck users or any kind of like handheld PC handhelds, they did phenomenal with optimizing that as well. Like they definitely took their time to make it optimal game or as far as performance on all console and platforms. And even when it did it, I know they had some issues day one. They went about to fix it so that you can have the best experience while playing the game to include a Steam Deck, which is insane.
I don't
Because
disagree with that one, honestly. I feel like optimization is like a standard. It shouldn't be this game's worth its full price. It fucking works. Like, no, every game should fucking work.
I
You
mean,
know,
there's some things that kind of just go past you, or you wouldn't see like in QA. There's only so much time that QA will have to fully test, stress test a game on a device, and
niggas have
assuming that
years.
I mean, just look at dang, I can't even call them out by names. I won't do it. But there's some people within the industry that just don't really care. They're out for a pay cut, a paycheck.
Yeah, but
So
like,
is it really the
I
studio's
understand it.
fault?
Yes.
Oh, are you talking about you and High Roller? Is that what was
Damn,
going on?
that's crazy. That's
I
wild.
was
Oh shit! Nice
trying to
pickup.
connect dots. That's it.
That's wild, yo.
Like, I just think like that a game coming out optimized should be the bare minimum. I don't think that's a deciding factor of it's worth full price. You know what I mean?
That saying technology is always going to be perfect on release.
I didn't say necessarily perfect. Like, it doesn't have to be completely bugless, but like optimized, it should be optimized. I don't think optimization makes a game, worth fucking $70.
Well,
I mean,
no,
because
I'm not saying that alone it does, but it ties to it. I feel like there's some games that are quick to release and would push optimization to the side to the point where you can't even play the game at all.
you
So
got an
now
example.
you spent $60 or even $40 for a game and you can't even play the shit the day before. We're looking at you.
Ain't no we. They ain't get my ass.
I would like to say Dragon's Dogma 2 is fully worth the price, especially since it's a single player game with
Interesting.
that little aspect of that fake co-op thing, because you don't have to rush it. The story seems pretty complete. The people's like opinion on the way the story ends, or how it plays out, that's entirely understandable. But the story is complete. It's well written. The game's pretty vast. Like, it's a pretty big ass fucking game. Like, I haven't played it in a minute, and I'm pretty sure I'm upwards of 25 hours. So
I was thinking about Dragon's Dogma because like it was one of those things where I thought about. I was like, yeah, even though I only have 9 hours in it, I never finished it, didn't get too far. I can't say the game was not worth full price. It just wasn't necessarily for me. So like, that's another thing where like a game not being to your taste doesn't mean it's not worth full price. Maybe it's not your type of game. You know what I mean? Because I could definitely like see that with Dragon's Dogma, and like you said with the ending, right? That reminds me of Last of Part 2. A lot of people didn't like what they did with the story there, but in my opinion, that does not mean it's not a worthwhile game. You know what I mean? It's not worth full price. So that's definitely something I agree with. I think because there's just so many factors that go into it, right? And obviously it is opinionated, right? Like, no matter how much I tell them otherwise, that Spider-Man 2 is always going to worth that 70 to Striker, right? And it's not right for me to tell him he's fucking wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because he generally did enjoy the motherfucker way more than me. He spent like 40 hours swinging around the city, you know?
taking pictures and shit
Yeah, we ain't seen the pictures either. Where you post them at?
in the Bugle.
Mm.
Bitch, in the paper. Everybody got a raise.
Yeah, so like,
you gotta be a member to Only Spiders.
yeah, I'm
It's
dead.
it's a hidden.
Did you just
it's a
say
hidden-
only spiders?
Moving on, anyways.
Yeah, you got to rename that one, dog. That was how Stan Lee felt when he first proposed Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man? Ugh. Only spiders? Bro? I'd be damned if I go to a site called Only Spiders. Oh, nah. Boy, that sound dangerous.
It'll come. You'll see.
Okay.
You're gonna revisit this hot take.
No, I will not. But, like, I don't know. I feel like we need to find another game that we're not.
Rise of the Ronin.
I think Rise of the Ronin was 70, right?
Yes, it was.
I
feel like it was.
We
It
know.
definitely was.
We know. Let me see. I gotta think about this one. For a quick second. Yeah, Rain, you didn't play this one, so you got this one.
I was about to say, I'll throw you some questions. Story.
See, that was the first thing I thought about because the story was one of the biggest downfalls of that fucking game.
I will say the story was kind of lackluster, and at some point, I just stopped caring. But
you stop caring because they don't fucking get. They just, man, that's a whole nother conversation. But like, they should have streamlined the story. Them giving you them fake ass choices for none of your choices to really matter. It's so crazy. Like, and it really made me not care for either fucking side for real. But I definitely can't say Rise of the Ronin was not worth its full price. But I'm kind of I'm kind of hesitant to say that it was worth the full 70 just because and this one isn't like even a game. I guess it does have more to do with the story. So I'm glad you brought that up cuz I just
They
feel
were
like with
trying to go
Ronin
for historic accuracy, weren't they?
they did. Yeah, cuz I think those were some real historic figures, yeah. Um but at the same time I'm not a history buff. I don't know. Well, Japan did open up trade with the West in the free world, right? Like that is how that happened. I'm pretty sure. So, damn. Now I think about it, the ending of the game, though, both game endings are pretty much simply the same. So yeah, once again, your choices did not fucking matter. Um, but I, I'm 50. You know what? I'm gonna give it to it. I'm gonna say Rise of the Ronin is worth the full price, but it's one of those things that was kind of disappointing for what I was expecting. So, um, but I got enough enjoyment out of it for me to say, yeah, it's worth the full price, I suppose. But it's very, very close because the story, right there, the story was something I was expecting. And this goes back to expectations of a game, right? The story wasn't really what I was expecting, and it wasn't as good as I expecting. And then the multiplayer, same thing. I didn't really like the multiplayer that much. I thought it was stupid how it was limited to just the fucking main story missions. It should have been reversed. It should have been
They
multiplayer open
had
world.
something.
Huh?
I said at least they had something for it.
I mean, that's okay. See, that's the thing though. Like, I feel like the multiplayer diminished the experience because when I played those, because I was ahead of y'all in the story. So when I played those missions by myself, the boss fights were actually somewhat challenging, right? Or at least we weren't fucking stomping on them and all that. But like when you go and you're a party of 3 players and you're just jumping one single boss who it does, I don't even think that like their health or damage scaled or anything for players. Now that I think about it, I mean it could have, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Not from our experience. We jumped the fuck out them niggas. And I really feel like it ruined like there's a lot of things about bosses that you and Ashley didn't experience because we beat the shit out of them before they could do it, or they didn't have a turn, you know, they didn't get to play the game. But with us, right? Like, I mean, not with us, but with me, since I was playing solo and it was a 1-on-1, I would have to, or even a 1v2 sometimes, I'd have to really study them. I'd have to really, be on the defensive sometimes and be very reactive. And it was a way better experience in terms of what I was supposed to get out of the game. So I think that the multiplayer, the way they did it, really diminished the game. And it would have been way better if the multiplayer was set to the free world, right? So that way you guys can go do those towns together. You can explore, you explore together. I think that would have been way fucking better. I think they did that multiplayer wrong. So, yeah, no, that multiplayer was overall an L for me, for sure. Um, but yeah, but consider, and then also, even though I didn't do it, the fact that you got a new difficulty after you beat the game, and that new difficulty unlocked new gear, and you didn't even have the new game plus to fucking access that difficulty. You could just raise your difficulty and play and basically in Act 4, which just refilled the map with new objectives. So I think Ronin had enough going for it to be worth full price. And if it's your cup of tea, you're definitely not gonna regret spending that money on it.
It has the content for sure. Definitely
Yeah,
has the
yeah.
content. The gameplay alone, like kind of like standalone gameplay, like its combat was absolutely phenomenal and kind of fun. Now I feel like there's some aspect of the combat that probably could have been a little bit better, particularly like the whole stance changes. Some of them did matter, others didn't really. Like I feel like if there was a way to kind of gauge or see the numbers,
Let me
or
cut you off real quick. Sorry. I mean, it's just I think we're getting a little too specific. I think we need to talk about things that are like applicable to most games, right? Instead of just going and nitpicking, because we kind of did the same thing we did with Spider-Man. We're gonna do with Ronin and just deep dive. I think we should really focus on
high
broad
level,
things
surface
that,
level of the game.
not surface level of the game, but like things that apply to all games. Story, like the overall combat system, not going too deep into it, right? Because some people
Fair.
may like the stances, some
So then
people
the
may not
combat
be very
was
opinionated.
yeah.
Like yes, I guess overall talk about running combat or something that makes it relatable to other games, that is very fast paced. Um it's parry oriented, right? It's been a minute for me since I don't even know what it hasn't really. It's only been 5 months since I played that game. I don't know why I can't remember how exactly all the combat works, but probably because it's kind of simple, which isn't bad. Some people love simple, and simple is easy to get a hang of. So, um,
Simple ain't bad.
no, it's not. Simple done right is very good, I think.
Really simple game, Power World.
So how about this, right? What makes a single player story game worth full retail price in y'all opinion? What qualities and how much hours and all that do you think it generally has to have for it to be worth it? And if there are exceptions, what are those exceptions? Because like for me, well, time wise, I like a good. I think. I think a good. Damn, putting a time limit on it is kind of hard, right? Because I am giving Spider-Man 2 a hard time for 20 hours, but I'm thinking like story wise, the game doesn't need to be any longer than like 30 hours for sure. And 20 is not that far. Well, 20 was full platinum in that bitch, but um, how long is your average story game hour wise? That's a good ass question. Hold on. Average.
I'm trying to think of another story game that I played besides Wukong this year alone. Damn, yeah, none comes to mind. I mean, 2024 was kind of like a rest year.
Yeah, it's looking
Game
like people are saying like 20 to 30 hours should be is average for AAA games. But I guess the campaign itself would probably be even shorter, right? Because another thing is quality versus quantity. Like I am okay with shorter games if the quality makes up for it. And then also another curveball, right? There are some the like basically the video games that are basically just interactive movies, like the fucking Telltale games, the fucking Dark
Hellblade,
Anthropology series. Ooh,
Hellblade.
Hellblade, games like that, they are bound to be shorter because they're basically just fucking extended movies. But it's like if it's really good, because that's what I'm expecting. If it's good enough, it's still worth that full price. Like, because I played most of what them guys made Until Dawn, Supermassive. No, not is it Supermassive? I don't mean. Let me double check before I butcher this. Yeah, it is Supermassive. So Supermassive Games, right? They specialize in that and a lot of horror things, and like a lot of those games are no longer than like 10 hours. And then the Dark Anthropology series, which are little shorter stories, they're no more than like 6, I want to say. Even the Casting Frank Stone, which I haven't been playing, but I should definitely finish. I'll have to finish soon. I think that one's only around like 6 hours long too. And
Yeah,
so
I mean,
for
I can
those
appreciate
shorter
that.
games, yeah, that's what I'm saying. For those shorter games, especially because it's an expectation thing. Like I expect it to be short. I don't expect this to keep me busy for 20 to 30 fucking hours, right? So I think for some of those, like they can definitely be worth it. Like with the Anthropology series, I very much enjoyed House of Ashes. That was a mad short one. But I think that one's probably the best in that short series. Until Dawn, both Until Dawn and The Quarry, I think are well, Until Dawn definitely worth full price. The Quarry, I could hear arguments for both sides.
I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
it was a good one. I definitely like the story for it, and even playing it as a decision or just letting it play as a movie.
Yeah, that was a pretty dope feature too. Just letting it play as a movie. So like I think like with those, like you expect something shorter. So when it's shorter, you're not upset about it, right? So I think like it kind of boils down to expectations for real. And then also what kind of game it is, because like something like Diablo, with how in depth it is, 30 hours in Diablo is almost nothing.
The
Or
campaign for Diablo was very underwhelming.
was it? You think so?
It was like
What
five,
was
six
it?
hours long. That was the
Well,
main campaign.
but at the same time though, Diablo is an in-game game. it is not. You're not meant to be on the campaign for that long. You're meant to beat the campaign and then reach the actual meat of the game, which is like end game and leveling to 100. So that's one of the, that's another thing, right? But if you're like a story type of guy, I can see why you have that opinion. But you got to realize Diablo is not a game where the main focus is the story. So if that's something for you, that's more of a, I mean, I guess I can't tell you it's not worth that. That makes it's not worth the price. I can't tell you you're wrong on that, but it's just that's not the focus of the game. So that shouldn't really be an expectation, you know. But then again, it was our first Diablo, so it's probably something you didn't know. But yeah, our Diablo is definitely RPG, MMORPG. It's like it's not the story isn't the meat and potatoes of the game. For
I
real.
played 3, and I don't think I paid attention to the story at all. Actually, I was pretty lost in 3. I ain't gonna lie.
God damn. Well, you did start at 3, so that could be something. But I mean, and then for a story, like I think I disagree with you on that because, like, surprisingly, I remember a decent little bit about the story. Not all the finer details, but it was basically like a love to hate story between Lilith and what was that asshole's name with the light tentacles?
It starts with an I, if I'm not mistaken.
And
Inarius or something.
yeah, something like that. And like, and you know, for someone who came in on the fourth game and knew nothing about them, because I think the first 3 games all revolve around them as well, because they created Sanctuary and they rebelled from their sides, and that's why.
I think Lilith came up in this one. The last game was a fight against Inarius. Like he was actually evil or something like that. You were fighting against him.
Yeah,
And
then
then
like,
2 was Mephisto, and 1 was of course against.
damn, Mephisto's back again, huh? He's a DLC guy for this game, ain't he?
Which is interesting.
Full circle, huh? But yeah, so like, because like for real, like I ain't even gonna go there, but I do think Diablo 4 story, because for me, anything memorable kind of means it was very much impactful, right? If you remember it all this time later after not touching it. So
Good or bad?
Hmm?
Good or bad? Memorable?
in a way, yeah, if it's bad memorable, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have different opinions about it. I'm not gonna praise it the way I have good memorable, but bad memorable is definitely like, you know, any publicity is good publicity type of thing, right? Like I'm not gonna forget Suicide Squad. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? I
Skull
remember
and
that name.
Bones?
Who?
Skull and Bones?
Oh, I didn't. That's a question for you, Brother Rain.
What about it?
Memorable and worth it?
Worth it? No. But
that's 2 different things, though. Remember, like, yeah, things can be bad memorable. Just, you know, memorable doesn't mean it's necessarily worth it. But with Diablo, I was talking about a good memorable because I did feel for the I guess I would say gap between Inarius and Lilith. I did feel that. I did feel that relationship. I did feel that it, you know what I'm saying? Like, because they you could tell that, like, they fucking loved each other at one point in time. You could, and like, for something that didn't happen in that game itself, you can tell that. You can tell that they cast it aside for the, you know, I liked it. But once again, Diablo's not, Diablo 4 wasn't, the story wasn't the meat and potatoes, all right? And this is where it differs from other games like Ronin, right? Like, the story is the meat and potatoes of that game, so the story should have a lot of focus and a lot of heart poured into it, and it didn't. Whereas Diablo, you can get away with that because
if they didn't had you create your Blade Twin, it was just kind of like Gary from Pokemon. Would that have like changed your outlook towards the game?
No, because the Blade Twin wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem for me was the fact that they posed that you could play as, you know, you could pick a side between these 2 sides, and it was all like illusion of choice. It doesn't matter what side you pick. This mission is gonna have the same end result, the same end boss. You're gonna fight the same fucking enemies. You're not, the enemies don't even change till you get to Act 3, I feel, and even that I can't say for certain. And then with the Blade Twin, even if it was an in-universe character, I feel like I still wouldn't have cared because you never got time to bond with your Blade Twin. You made them, and on that first fucking mission, you lost them. And then every point after that, they're just straight up an asshole to you, just always fighting and not really wanting to stop and talk. So, like, I don't think I would have felt for my Blade Twin regardless. Because you got to give players time to bond with characters, unless there's someone extremely likable, like fucking bring Goku or something. No one's gonna care, you know, when they trade or something. They're gonna be ready to pop you in the fucking face, you know. Shit, Yeah. So I don't think so. I think the Blade Twin was also done kind of poorly in that game because you couldn't even make peace with your Blade Twin. That was another thing. It was like, bro, if there's two sides to the game, and I choose one side, then in my mind, theoretically, that means my Blade Twin should be on the other side, right? And that would have been something cool. But no, the Blade Twin just wanted to fucking start a war and shit. And it doesn't matter what choices you made, you weren't gonna help them, you weren't gonna bond with them, you weren't gonna do nothing. And at the end of the game, even if you choose to spare them, it's not like y'all become, you mend your bond. They fucking move across the planet. They leave. They abandon Japan, and like it's just like, oh well, why the fuck did I even spare you for real? you know? So nah, they did the Blade Twin poorly too. I didn't even think about that before. They really did. That's why I had no hesitation cutting that bitch down. None at all, bro.
What else? What's another one that I think there was one recent? Yeah, damn. Moment of silence, bro. But what's the shit called? Star Wars Outlaws or some shit?
Oh, come on, bro. You know that's not worth full price. That shit. Come on now.
Is it not? I haven't got a chance to play it. I haven't seen it either. Like I haven't seen anything about it.
I wonder why.
Damn.
I haven't played it either. Obi said he liked it, but that's about as far as that goes.
Someone enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm quite sure someone did. Someone enjoys everything. There's some dude on this planet. Hey, if one man's trash, another man's treasure. That's a true ass statement. I'm sure someone did enjoy it, but like I don't know. If we're being genuine, come on now. I mean, I didn't look too deep into the game, but it didn't even work on release. The people who bought the game for the early access had to start over a day before early access ended.
That shit was wild.
Like I don't like, and maybe I can't say too much because I didn't even bother looking to the game beyond the terrible release and the fact that like it wasn't nothing that pulled me from the get go being announced really. But
this shit wasn't released by EA, was it?
No, it was Ubisoft, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Damn.
So like nah. But okay, we talked a lot about single player, like story oriented games. What about straight up multiplayer games? What are some multiplayer games you think are and aren't worth full retail price?
That came out this year?
Not necessarily. Just in general.
Just in general. Damn, I gotta go through my list. Because like I said, it's kind of hard to not hit with a multiplayer game, just because like. I mean, I guess the only ones I really played were the indies. There hasn't been any like AAA, like really like multiplayer game that you're looking forward to. Like, well, I guess the Outlast Trials. You could say would probably be AAA.
Outlast Trials?
40, if I'm not mistaken.
40. Well, it's a different experience. I guess that wouldn't have to be too long. And then, yeah.
Outlast Trials is 40.
Yeah.
I mean, at 40, I definitely feel like that game,
Yeah, and that's another thing where it makes it easier to think about because the price was like a little less,
Well, not even, because it makes it a little bit harder, because that's why I said yes and no. Like, yes, the game was fun. I enjoyed the game, but no at the same time, because the content that they had with the game is filled with a difficult version or a more, like, intensive experience of the exact same scenario. And I don't feel like that's content per se. Like, that's not something that's worth replaying like over and over, or even kind of like expanding, going on to the next one. You're gonna still experience the exact same content of that scenario.
No, I don't agree with that specifically for Outlast Trials, because Outlast Trials is one of the few games I feel like does difficulty well. Because a lot of games, when you turn the difficulty, all they do is adjust some sliders. The bosses have more health, they have more damage, you have less defense, shit like that. But Outlast Trials difficulty increase meant more traps, more enemies, which not in a game where you don't fight the enemies really changes up how you play, right? It meant I think those modifiers and shit, and then also like there are enough trials in that game for like your replayability, like for like with us, right? That's not our first time. We ran through just about every mission when the game first came out in early access like a year ago, right?
Yeah.
And coming back here, starting over on a higher difficulty, we were lost. We spent forever finding a key. We were looking for objectives. You know, like we didn't have the maps fucking memorized from the last time we played it. Granted, it was long. It was a while ago now, but like I think there's enough trials in that game to warrant that. On top of the fact that, like I said, they do difficulty well, right? And it's another case of like not similar, not exactly like Wukong, but similar to where by the time you do all the trials, you're not going to be nowhere near max level. You're not going to have all the upgrades or nothing. But you can go back even on the same difficulty, replay missions, just level up and shit, and you become a better character. You become stronger. You have more abilities, and that makes taking on the higher challenges different because you can do more. You know. So
Did
like,
you play what's it called? Lethal Company.
yeah,
Compared to a game like Lethal Company, which I wouldn't say is quite exactly the same, but similar concepts. Would
yeah.
you still feel, because it's still at its core, it's a 4-player multiplayer game that you kind of traverse through a map and avoid certain creatures or enemies, and you can't necessarily fight the enemies. I mean, you can get a little sign or whatever to kind of combat them a little, but it's not something that there's no combat in it, much like Outlast Trials. But that game was worth $10, and they give you 9 planets, uh, and very much the same. There's no like difficulty per se, but the difficulty is raised not by a modifier, but based off the time and how much time you spent on the planet.
I feel like
Now, a
that's a
$10 game that has that versus a $40 game that, like Outlast Trials.
I feel like that's a very loose connection though, because like yeah, you could say the overall like genres are like the same, but the objectives in these games are very different, right? Like Outlast has linear maps, right? They have linear starts, linear beginnings. You go from the start to the end, and you have to go from the end all the way back to the
Fair,
start to
yeah.
leave, right? Lethal Company maps are randomly generated, so it's like saying like you have all the like, and I don't even think they had 9 planets on release. I swear I only remember being on like 2 or 3, unless we were just ass and didn't make it nowhere, right?
We did
Like
not make it.
okay, well, but like and like with because like you play Lethal Company a few times, you play on a planet a few times, you know the layout of that planet, and even though it's randomly generated, it's just like you know exactly what to expect. And the only real big difference comes from when you move to a different planet and the dungeon there looks, it's a different dungeon. But there was only like 2 or 3 off of my knowledge that were really like different dungeons, and other than that, it's just like randomly generated and you just grab stuff. I think that's a very loose comparison. They're both just kind of horror games, but like beyond that, it's mad different. And like for Lethal Company, like Lethal Company, of course, it being $10, definitely worth it, right? It's definitely worthwhile experience.
Yeah.
But it's just I don't know, because and then you also got to take into effect like the quality, right? Like Outlast has high quality graphics. It
I mean,
has
yeah.
cutscenes. It has voice acting. It has what I mean. Like there's a lot more quality that goes into Outlast. Well, yeah, that went into Outlast and did Lethal Company, right? Understandably. Um, so I mean, you may not personally like the difficulty increase, which I mean, once again, I think they did kind of good, like in comparison to other games. But I think it changes it up enough for it to be worth it, right? Like for instance, like we upped the difficulty on the highest difficulty, and we couldn't even beat the first mission. So how can you say everything's the same and the difficulty is very artificial when it literally stops you from from passing the mission? Well, I guess the artificial comment is really irrelevant, but I don't know. I feel like it's very different. Like we'd have to work our way up to be able to beat Outlast Trials on the final difficulty. You can't off rip do that. Whereas there are other games where you can most definitely just off rip brand new game, play on the highest difficulty, and beat it. And not saying you won't have no trouble at all, but it's gonna happen. But if you take a level 1 player on Outlast Trials and send him to psychotherapy, he's not coming out. It's a dead man. It's a dead man.
Yeah, but I wouldn't quite say that difficulty difference is uh I wouldn't say it changes like my experience with the content that the game provides. Like it's still the same scenario regardless. It's just made it difficult. So
Okay,
whereas
so What's an example of a good difficulty increase in your opinion? What game did it right?
I'm thinking multiplayer wise.
Just in general,
I say Halo. Like if you look at Halo and how Halo handled difficulty,
how they handle it.
more of a specific type of enemy rather than an increase in enemy mobs. So like since Halo kind of has like, you have your what are they called, like the elites and the grunts, and then you have those like snipers or whatever. Like they'll reduce the amount that you'll see of a lesser or weaker enemy and increase the more heavily shielded enemies, or
Okay,
even
but
like
how is that any different from Outlast? Just increasing enemy density. It's literally just making it more difficult via increasing number of enemies. Like,
it's
how
copy
is
and
it-
paste to me.
well, Halo, that's definitely copy and paste. Just erasing grunts and replacing them with elites. That is 110% fucking copy and paste. Like whereas Outlast, and then with Outlast, they give you different variety. You don't just get three of the same nigga. You get the people from the mission originally, and then you get an extra big guy, an extra fucking poison guy, an extra fucking screamer here and there. You get some. You definitely get some enemy variety when they increase density. It's not just another faceless, same character model as chasing guy. So I don't know. I don't think that's very. I don't think that's very true to say, right? Because if anything, Halo difficulty is mad artificial, bro. You just get one shot by everything. Everything has better aim and just aim bots onto you. Like I don't see how you could enjoy Halo on Legendary, but then say psychotherapy or whatever on Outlast is kind of bullshit. Like, let me think of a game that does difficulty right.
It's definitely much
It's
more
like,
manageable. But once again, two different games and two different playstyles for those games. So I get that. But I was just kind of like alluding to the concept of how they went about its difficulty versus just kind of throwing a bunch of shit on the map and just unleashing everything at once and just like, all right, try to figure it out.
that's
I,
not how
I don't
Outlast
like
does it
that
though.
formula.
That's exactly how Halo does it too. If we're being real, that's exactly how Halo does it. It just tosses extra enemies on the map, figure it out. Outlast doesn't toss three enemies at you in the beginning. It just increases the density for per each area. Each area
This,
has like maybe one extra, but then you don't get overwhelmed by six guys all at once. That doesn't happen.
the second you get off the fucking elevator, there's like two fucking people waiting for you.
It's like one. There's never two people in the beginning, and those, or at least in those missions that we played. Maybe there's two in the beginning and later missions, but the ones we played, there was never two people out in the front. It was always just one. The enemy density only ever meant like one or two extra people per area, and the enemies typically stick to the area they spawn in too.
Also, mind you,
So
we weren't on the hardest difficulty. That was just the one above normal.
I mean, it doesn't really change anything, right? It doesn't change what we're talking about. It doesn't change
Oh
the density.
no,
Because like what you like Halo is exactly what I mentioned. I think is and bad, and like I'll give Halo a pass. Halo's very old, right? So it's been doing this for a long ass time, and that's just how that's how difficulty was back in the day. I hope we've moved to something different, but like I don't think just adding doing those sliders, like, yeah, it's cool. You mentioned them replacing grunts with elites. That's pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna, that's pretty dope. But at the same time, like, you kill the elites the same exact way you kill the grunts. They're just it's just a bit tougher. Whereas with Outlast, like I said, them adding different variety of enemies, you don't deal with a screamer the way you deal with the fucking jailer. You don't deal with the psycho gas guy the same way you deal with the giants that are blind and rely off sound. And so when there's different variety of enemies in there, it changes how you play. Whereas with Halo, if you have the best weapons, the best fucking head glitch spot, you're not gonna change that when you up the difficulty at all. That's still gonna stay the same. Still gonna stay elite. Still gonna stay the best strategy. Still gonna stay the best weapon. That doesn't change anything at all. So like it's just a very artificial difficulty increase, and I hope it's something that gaming moves away from for real. But other than that, I can't think of too many games where the difficulty increase is not artificial. To be honest, that's kind of like a streamlined thing between a lot of games. Maybe Baldur's, right? Because you up difficulty on that, it doesn't change the enemies. It does change their health, but it changes your chance to hit, which is unique to tabletop RPG games, but is something different, right? And well, let me see. Would I say Baldur's Gate does difficulty really well? Because outside of that, I can't really. Well, honor mode.
Oh, the
Them
legendary
adding,
actions.
yeah. That's a good. I was scared because I was thinking about tactical mode at first. But honor mode, yeah, them adding the legendary actions to the shit, them adding no save scumming. That's the type of difficulty increase that I'm fucking talking about. You know, like, because it's like it changes the way you play, right? You know how like in a regular game you'll be mad, risky, you'll fucking murder people in the middle of town just because you know you can just quick load. It doesn't matter. Honor mode, you can't do that shit. Your actions are permanent, buddy. You know, and then honor mode, you know, like fuck it, like the dragon we wiped on. R.I.P. to us. Anyone else listening? We lost an honor mode run at Honor. Very sad. Yeah, very very fucking sad. We were broken inside. We didn't even react for real. We just were silent. I think we stayed silent for the rest of that night, bro. It was like, but anyway, rest
Yeah,
in
that
peace.
shit was wild.
Yeah, rest in peace to those 4 people. 5 if you count the character that JD threw away because of Striker. Can't talk about why.
Hey yo,
Yeah,
wait, it wasn't.
Yeah, no, we can't talk about why here. You know, but RIP to the 5 of them. But like, yeah, like the reason I mentioned that we wouldn't have lost that if it was any other difficulty because that extra shit he did was purely because of honor mode, right? Because he only did it once on the other fucking runs. So that's something that changes the way you play, right? Depending on legendary actions, and even in the early game with the chance to hit, you might have to play safer, right? So I think Baldur's Gate is another one that does that really well, and I'd hope to see more games really take like basically like. And this is the reason I praise Outlast Trials difficulty so much is like instead of doing the universal slider switch over, take specific elements about your game and see, okay, what makes my game difficult? Okay, this, let me change this. Or what's easy about this level? This, let me change that specifically. Like I love, you know, game specific difficulty changes, and I think that should be more of a mainline thing. Because like other games I'm sorry, I'm really not doing this on purpose. I just like Spider-Man God of War, the difficulty increases in those purely slider related. So what is the point? I'm not enticed. I'm not enticed to go back and play Spider-Man Ultimate. I'm not enticed to go back and play God of War on Give Me God of War. Yeah, that's a crazy ass title for a difficulty. But like something like Outlast, I'm fine with upping the difficulty and trying that because it actually changes the experience a bit. Something like Baldur's Gate, it changes the experience, you know. And you got things on the opposite side of the spectrum, like Wukong, where the whole point of New Game Plus is not to make the game harder for you, but the game's harder for the enemies. Now you're the fucking boss, and that's the opposite end of the spectrum. But it's also like, oh, I fuck with that because that's the intention, you know. So oh, it should really vary from game to game, and I'm kind of upset a lot of games don't do it that way. Fuck it, Destiny. Destiny actually is a good example. Destiny, you up difficulty, you up from a normal mode to contest or masters. Now regular enemies are replaced with champions that you have to deal with specific barrier weapons or overload weapons, shit like that. Now shit like that is nice. It's not just fucking more enemies with a little bit more health. It actually changes the enemies, so like shit like that. I can't. Y'all would probably be able to give more examples. I don't know why my brain's shitting on me. I can't think of other things that change when you go to master in Destiny. What about you, Brother Wayne? I know you probably have more to add on memory.
Oh man,
Would you say Destiny 2 is a good example of like a good difficulty? Damn, we done trailed all the way to fuck off, but
sure. I mean, besides what you just stated with
Mhm.
the fact that it adds in champions, which affects your gameplay loop, it also, in situations you're only allowed to revive one person or like
Mhm.
once in certain sections.
Everybody has one revive token, so you got to share revives.
You got to play a little more cautious and be smarter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then modifiers too. Wait, masters have modifiers, right? Or do they
Yeah.
not anymore? I don't. Yeah, so modifiers, another thing where it's like, oh shit, I take extra damage from this element. Let me protect myself against that. Oh, this element does extra damage. Let me put this in my loadout, this weapon. Like that's because it changes your gameplay loop. It changes your experience, and I think that should be more. This is really its own fucking conversation. Let's tie back to the
Original topic.
The original topic of I couldn't even
Full
name
price.
the topic at first. Yeah, the full price topic. Let's tie back to that and wrap it up because I think for a hot topic this is damn near as long as a regular episode. But we did come up with some things that we could we can continue these conversations in future hot topics, though. You know what I'm saying? So,
For sure,
wrapping
definitely
back
got to
up,
come back to that.
wrapping back up to full price. I guess we'll each get like a little, 30-second plus, however long you want to talk about, a spill on the overalls and the big points that we went over. So for me personally, I think it's very dependent on what type of game it is, right? Because what makes a game worth full price is your expectations in combination with, like, because you mentioned stuff like Little Company, Outlast and stuff. Now, your expectation versus the price. Yeah, I think expectation versus the price versus like what type of game it is, because certain games excel or should excel in certain areas over others, and other games might not excel in the area at all, right? Like, I don't play Overwatch. I don't care if Overwatch has a story. I don't play it for the story. I don't really play Overwatch much anymore. Sad, but that way. All right, what say you two?
Word, yeah, no, I'd definitely say whatever the game is, definitely has to be something that's captivating. And I feel like immersion and its gameplay loop are big parts of that experience to prolong or retain that flow state of a player that's playing that game, which leads to that longevity of playtime for the game to get your value and everything that they've offered within the game with as far as content. If you like the content, if you like the immersion, if you like the gameplay loop, then you're not going to retain that player's attention, and it's not going to be a game that's worth it. And that's definitely affected me.
Yeah. Replayability. That was the thing I was forgetting. Replayability is very important for a game for full price too. Because a single player game, you should want to do the story over for whatever reason. Multiplayer games, you should want to boot up that next match as much as you hate it. But on to you, Rain.
Yeah, I mean, yes, basically kind of cover beating a dead horse, but like
Beat the fuck out of that
horse. What you expect out of a full price game if it's single player, obviously replayability, a story, or things of that nature. And then when it's a multiplayer game, you're expecting to see a gameplay loop that's engaging, that's going to keep you,
Okay. All right. Yeah. We may talk about this in the future, honestly, as in other hot topics, especially since Brother Ashy ain't here. Rest in peace to him. He ain't dead. He's just not with us at the moment. So thinking about this, a lot goes into it. I should have wrote notes for this preparing for this conversation today. But that's it. That's oh shit. We don't really have an outro for the hot topic yet either. Exactly. Oops. Maybe I should share that with the audience. Hey, maybe edit that out or not. I don't care. We real around here. So I don't know if we're gonna edit an outro onto this. So I'll just do one manually just in case right here. Appreciate you for listening in. Please let us know. Well, damn, do we uploading this on YouTube, right? Our hot topics, they're getting uploaded on YouTube as well.
Yeah, you talking about like the comments?
Yeah. Because I would like to know what you guys think as well, because this is a very like, damn, which one is it? Subjective or objective? I forgot again.
Critical.
That word, that way, that part. Very, very, very much that conversation. And I'd love to hear we all would love to hear your opinions, because like honestly, this is pretty huge, especially with the rise of pricing from gaming and DLC. Like, you really gotta let these companies know, hey man, this shit ain't worth it. Or hey, this shit is worth it. We love to see those too. Love to see those. But yeah, appreciate you guys listening in. Would love to hear from you guys and read your comments. And that is the summit. Out. Peace.
Wrapping up today's topic, we want to thank everyone who made it this far. If you enjoy the discussion, all we ask in your return is for you to spread the love by sharing this podcast with a friend. While you're at it, go ahead and drop us a 5-star rating on supporting platforms. This helps the algorithm promote our show, which helps with bringing in new listeners. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.